Well, Chinese President Hu Jintao has made his promises before his departure. So what kind of a role do you think China can play? Some are even saying that the G20 summit can be summarized into G2 because the most important player are the United States and China.
Let me give you some numbers to compare. Last quarter of last year, the U.S. is growing at -6%, and Japan is growing at -12%. China is doing not that good, but plus 6%.
Still.
So China is playing a much more important role. I think this time we say the positive role, which is right, and this time I think it's China talks and the world listens.
Then what kind of a talk do you think China will put up with?
Well, China has to be certain that Chinese economy will be growing at 8%, as President Hu has promised, and hopefully through this China growth engine, we will bring the world economy, at least stop its falling to its bottom. And I hope that China in this year, today, or even in this year, its growth will show its potentials. Now, when President Hu attends the summit, he will definitely deliver this message, but he will also coordinating with the rest of countries in the world so that everybody will be out of that dilemma or the crisis for the time being.
And another outcry from China. Recently, China's top economic officials spoke about their mind of the global economy. The central bank governor Zhou Xiaochuan spoke about something challenging the role of U.S. dollar. So what do you make of the message?
Yes, I think President Zhou Xiaochuan's message is very clear that the world needs a new global reserve currency, but that's not going to happen in the near future. So he has proposed several steps, including SDRs and IMF, and Vice Premier Wang Qishan also mentioned similar things. So I think Chinese government is ready on this event, but we're not in a hurry. We know there's something wrong in the international financial system, but we need to correct it, but that's in the medium or long term.
Do you think China will be more assertive in the talks about the role of IMF and trade?
I definitely think that China will iterate this issue, but the world crisis right now needs a coordinated stimulative package. And then the reorganizing of the international financial system, that could come later.
And Professor Hall, the U.S. and EU have large diversions on what should be discussed and in what order. Interestingly, Obama has softened his tone and stressed on unity. But on the other hand, France's President Nicolas Sarkozy has threatened to walk out the summit without getting what they want, namely financial regulation, tougher financial regulation. So what's your take on the differences?
Obama wants everybody to stimulate its own economy in a coordinated way, and President Sarkozy suddenly felt, well, look, that's not what I thought. So at this juncture, Obama, the best offering is unity. That's why we already seen the difference between European Union on the European side and the U.S. side. And look, tomorrow the meeting is going to be held immediately. Yeah. Looks like Obama's offering the unity is reminding everybody at this stage that we are sitting together, we're on the same boat, so we better be careful not to break up, and so that threatens everybody.
It seems that the U.S. want to stress on more stimulus packages while the EU wants to stress on financial regulation. So do you think they can make compromises on those key issues?
I think this is the really difficult issue, and we shall see tomorrow what's the outcome of tomorrow's meeting, because this is exactly what the difference between Europe and the United States. While Europe is thinking that the international, especially financial supervision is important, if you cure that, then all the financial disorders will just sort of disappear. But apparently, U.S. has different opinion simply because U.S. government admits that this time U.S. cannot save the world by himself, which is very different from any previous summit.
Another angle, of course, is the developing countries. The developing countries want to play a more important role in G20 summit and in the international economic framework. Do you think they can get that?
Well, developing economies, especially emerging market economies for the BRICS countries, that definitely need more voices in this kind of international talks, where they were considered sort of featherweight players. But China, Russia, and India, they are certainly forming a group, so they have different opinions on the world situation. Of course, each individual country is offering their own support to their own economy, so in a way, they're supportive to the U.S. proposals.
Okay. Ahead of the G20 summit, several leaked versions have been published of a draft communique to be released at the meeting.
The latest version of the draft communique was published on the Financial Times website on Sunday. The FT said it was more up-to-date than the version leaked to the German magazine Der Spiegel. The 24-point draft document from G20 leaders reiterates pledges to avoid protectionism. The communique says worldwide fiscal measures will increase global output by more than 2 percentage points and create more than 20 million jobs, though these figures are provisional. It does not detail a global approach to a fiscal stimulus package. It calls for support for banks, higher spending and more money for the International Monetary Fund. The communique also says the G20 are promising to work together to avoid unintended impacts of massive capital injections into the economy on other countries. 吉田新 CCTV.
Well, the leaked communique actually has many versions but mentions a huge stimulus package. But many observers believe that the consensus reached by G20 finance ministers in March should have set the framework. So what do you think is the closest to the final agreement that is going to be released very soon?
I think the leaked version, I believe more in that, simply because it contains more substance. Remember that Obama wants to have a coordinated stimulus package, and it looks like he is going to get it, at least from this superficially. And also it's going to give more money to the banks, and probably it's going to inject more money into the IMF. That's going to be true. But I doubted whether Obama is going to get everything. I think the French is going to be very reluctant to sign the final result. But we shall see tomorrow.
As you just mentioned, there are several things on the agenda: the financial system, the financial supervision, stimulus packages, and also fighting trade protectionism. On which front do you think we will see breakthroughs at the G20?
Well, I definitely think that the trade protection is probably something that's right on the spot, because that is exactly every sovereign country want to protect its own country, but they don't want to say it, at least superficially. So they are probably going to sign with the trade, not protectionism, but actually act to protect their own countries. For instance, France, I know they're doing things to in the auto industries, only protecting their own industries. But for the whole summit, I think people will be more focused on the stimulus package, and let's see whether Obama is going to pull through this time.
Do you expect to see a surge of protectionism in the time to come?
I definitely think that there's a potential, simply because the jobless rate in the worldwide sense is growing phenomenally. And how could any country that is rescuing its own economy without rescuing the jobless rate? If you want to rescue the jobless rate, then the first thing you do is trade protection.
What about the IMF restructuring?
Yes, IMF restructuring is definitely something to be mentioned, but at this moment, I'd expect the injection of new equity money, the new money into IMF, is probably more important, simply because through that channel, IMF is able to lend money out to the necessary countries.
And finally, how could China benefit from the G20 summit this time?
Well, definitely in China this time, China will be able to show its potential world leaders. I notice that I say leaders, so maybe next time we'll have a G2 meeting instead of G20.
So China is on the rise on the world economy stage. Thank you, Professor Hall. And that comes to the end of our discussions. I'm Zoe in Beijing. We leave you with some expectations on G20 London Summit by key economic figures. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.